and in the next 5 years we will expect this, this, and this. That's it. It could be, I mean, for example, in Nicaragua we have 9,000 militaries. Maybe we need 15,000. I don't know. Or maybe we need just 5,000 or 3,000. I mean, that need to be discussed, and that is the point of what is happening with the militaries in Central America. For example, when you think about capabilities of the militaries, 95% of our forces are infanteries. Infantry is okay? Yeah? But we have thousands and thousands of kilometers of seas and coastals. We don't have naval forces. And who is thinking about that? And I'm thinking about that because I'm collaborating now with a Center for Naval Analysis, and they told me that. Yeah, I did it before, yeah, but it's true. So that is the kind of decision that the Central America need to see and to put the money and allocate the money in the right institution. When you see the structure when you see how the Nicaraguan military are deployed in the country, most of them are in the middle of the country. Why? It's simple, because the cafeteros, the coffee entrepreneurs, they pay to the military for security. So it's a good business. Stay there, in the heart of the country, in the middle of the country. But it's not a good business. Stay in the coast, when a drug trafficker can kill you. So. And who is watching about that? Who's overseeing that? That's the point that I think that need to be reviewed for the academy, for the research center, and reinforce the focus and reinforce the perspective and be creative about that.
Thank you, Javier.
Yes, very briefly. First, a footnote referring money. Remember, in the majority of the budgets of the military, of the police, 70 or 80% of the budget is devoted to salaries and pensions. This is very clear. Second, referring to what is the difference with Central America, remember that the elites of Central America are thinking that they are very weak. The example that related Marcela is very clear. We want that Americans put troops in this country to solve the problem of insecurity. This is crazy. Nobody in the South American countries think about that. Don't even in Colombia. This is the big difference. Central America has a problem of identity, a problem about what is the future of Central America, than each country. Third one. Referring to the innovation referring to the idea to think about what are the real questions to do. We normally follow the conventional wisdom. The conventional wisdom say we had to fight drugs, we got to go ahead with the problem to fight maras and so on. Are these the real problems? This is the problem. We have to think about what are our real problems in the region and address that. This is the point of innovation. It's necessary to maintain the actual armed forces for what? Javier said very clear. We have a lot of codes. What is our navies or our coast guard? Nothing. We have the troubles of natural. Yes. Capacity in the border is zero. We have the troubles of the natural resources. Imagine water and so on. And imagine the demographic situation of all the Latin America. It's an empty continent. An empty continent in a world that nowadays is practically 7 billion inhabitants. This is the idea of innovation. We have to think about what are the real problems and abandon the normal conventional wisdom. And finally, a brief note about democracy. Democracy is not only about elections. Democracy is about polyarchy. It's about the idea of a regime where the minorities have rights And this is nowadays one of the big problems in a lot of countries in the region. The idea is, no, he was elected. It was the normal plebiscite, referendum, and the bus, the normal they maintain the same leader in power. Is this a real democracy? What are the other points referring at the normal democracy? Well, this is the point. And this is related to insecurity. No, this is related with what happens with the political system and what happens with the political parties in a system in the majority of the country. It's related with the problem of representation. It's related with enormous inequality that are in the zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. Steve?
I'll try to be brief so we can get out of here by happy hour. In a democracy, military and police forces have protective roles that have to be exercised within bounds, and it's the polity that makes those decisions. When we talk about civilian control and civilian defense ministries and civilians running the public security ministries, we're talking about people that are appointed by the president that can work with the president and work across agencies to coordinate what the sizes of those forces and what those forces should optimally be doing. If those institutions are controlled still by internal hierarchies and career officers, it's much more difficult for them to get away from self-advocacy and looking out for their own interests than to be part of an interagency process. That's a real challenge. It's a challenge even in the United States, but it's something that I think is probably a little better model, so that you have people that can diplomatically break those barriers and go across to coordinate. Shifting roles. Obviously, as we've seen in our own past, our Army has not had the same role that it started out as, and it's changed over time, and that's happening in Central America, and indeed all of Latin America. Who would have ever thought in the 1950s that Latin American countries like Argentina and Uruguay would have taken on peacekeeping roles and become the leading countries in the world in doing those missions? But those are roles that have actually quite a bit to do with a certain kind of police action, although they're in foreign countries. Now, there's things that they can apply from those, but what does an army actually bring to an internal situation in one's own country? The one thing that we found out is it's command and control and mobility, and that's why they're so good at humanitarian action. Getting to sort of Martin's question, is that they have those capabilities of being able to mobilize people and machines quickly and be able to transport cargo quickly and do things that would be difficult for some civilian agencies. But what has to be clear is who's the boss. It's not the military commander, but it's the civilian authority that has command of that particular situation. What one would hope in developing not only civilian control of these forces, but also in developing the legal frameworks in which they operate, that there would be these kinds of bounds and guidelines established so that militaries would know what exactly they're expected to do in support of civilian authorities. Sad to say that sometimes it takes almost a national catastrophe or a huge change to be able to change the composition of these forces, as occurred after Just Cause in Panama. Went from night and day, went from having a military force, the Panamanian Defense Force, to the next day having basically a constabulary force. Now, since that time, that force has been reapportioned a little bit more toward its Coast Guard, a little bit more toward border defense capabilities. But those are things that should be discussed in the national dialogue, in Congresses, in discussions with the public, in campaign platforms, and not necessarily defended as It's something that's institutional honor. And with that, I think I've said my piece.
Thank you, Steve. Well, thank you very much. I think, this has been an excellent panel. There are many, lots of elements from your presentation that can help us think through such a complex issue. So please join me thanking the panelists, and thank you, too, for staying here. Bueno, muchísimas gracias.
A ti, Miriam.